Okay, for the wiring project, I started up here. Well, I didn't start up here. If you watch my previous videos, I snake a 2-wire cable up from underneath the seat, and I've also got my GPS wire back there. And then in another previous episode, I put this Kory voltmeter on. And how I'm going to wire that all up is I've got the 2-wire cable from under the seat and the voltmeter cable coming together and going to this SAE plug. And what this SAE plug is for power to the tank bag. So I've soldered all those together, and then under the seat I'll connect it to a fuse block. But then what I'm going to do now is take this looming material and put it around here just to keep all the wires and everything together. And I've also gone ahead and taken a 7/8 inch split collar, which it just bolts together with 2 Allen bolts. You can see I've got an eyelet wedged in there, and this eyelet is not the right size. I want one that tightens up around the wire. So I'm going to have to get a smaller one eventually, but for now it'll work. And I'm going to stick this through that, and then it'll hold it. And I can have this for the tank bag just hanging in the breeze, or I can also run my air compressor off of that, or other accessories, heated jacket, etc., etc. So I'm going to go ahead and put this loom over there and then tape it down real quick. Alright, there we are, and the shielded one is the hot, and the bare one is the ground, for obvious reasons, because you don't want it sparking and blowing fuses constantly when it's not in use. But I'm actually going to make a cap for that, and I'm just going to use the other side of this, and this is just a 2-flat, whatever you want to call it. SAE is what a lot of people refer to it as, but now there's the Hopkins number. You can get it at any auto parts store, any place that sells camper stuff. A lot of boats use it too. A lot of automotive stuff uses it actually, so yeah. That's what I'm using. It's just nice, easy, convenient, generic thing that you can pick up on the road to replace stuff if you need to. But for the cap, I'm just going to cut it off. I can show you on this one. I've got a couple of these because they're cheap. They're only a couple bucks. I'm going to cut it off flat here and grind it smooth right there, and then use a non-conductive epoxy to cover the top, because if you cut this off flush, well, you still got wires sticking out, so you got to cover that with something non-conductive. And I'll have to do some tests with JB Weld, but I believe JB Weld is not conductive. That's what I've got on the Seiko right now, and it hasn't bled off power or anything. That's the other thing. If there's any resistance in here, it's going to bleed off power and possibly short. So if you don't understand what any of that means, make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I am going to be doing basic electricity videos. A lot of people have requested that because, you know, simple things like checking a battery or doing wiring like this they're unsure of, so that's something I'm going to be doing in the future. Another thing I want to caution people about when wiring up their bikes, this is that 2-wire cable, and you see it pulls up against the steering yoke here and underneath this bracket, but there's a lot of insulation on here, so I'm not really worried about the parts scraping it and getting it shorted out. What I'm worried about is having enough play, and as you can see, this cable does not have enough play. Anyway, I was saying having enough play to turn full lock left to full lock right and have it loose. And you see this return cable for the brake loose. Now it's tight, so that is something I'm going to need to adjust. And I'm pretty sure I can do that by simply rotating this assembly forward or loosening a couple of things, but that's not what this video is about. This is about the electricity. So as you can see, I've got it loomed up here through the eyelet, which is too big right now. I need to get a smaller eyelet, but I've got it zip tied so it doesn't move back and forth. And then the plug going to the tank bag. Next, we're going to go under the seat. Okay, I put JB Weld on the end of this cap after I cut the wires off and ground it down. And I've got it hooked up to my fluke meter, which says overload right now, which means open, which means there's no continuity. And then if I put it on, so that the light's on, you can see it a little bit better, but if I put it on this beeper one, now that's lead to lead, you can hear a beep, and then if I stick this in here, you can see there's no continuity, doesn't measure any ohms. And if it measured any sort of ohms, like if I measured it, you know, like across this washer, for instance, this is incredibly hard to do with one hand. If I measure across a washer, it comes up with a resistance of like, you know, a couple tenths of an ohm. But then measuring across this, nothing. And I did measure this with two hands to be sure. So JB weld, non-conductive, that makes a nice plug. So that little JB weld plug goes right onto there, which all of this is incredibly difficult to do with one hand, but I'll manage. There it is, capped off. And that can just tuck right up in there until we need to use it. Now, what I had initially planned for underneath here is not actually gonna work. The fuck did I put that fuse holder? Oh, there it is. Because what I had planned to put under the seat was this, this nice little fuse block here. I had, you know, the main, which would feed these two, and then this one would go to the tank bag, that one would go to the GPS, and I have a spare, but it doesn't fit anywhere, it's too big. So the backup plan is to get inline fuse holders, which I'm going to have to go to the store for, and then I'm just going to tuck them all down inside here. So that will be coming up shortly in the video. In the meantime, I have a relay here, and it's a solid state relay because the regular relays I found get shook up real bad, and they tend to kind of die on me on bikes, like my Versus. But there's my little relay, and I've got a base for it, and this is going to serve for the master control relay, meaning that when I turn the key on, this gets turned on and gives power to all the other accessories, so that way I don't have to shut all my accessories off when I stop the bike so it doesn't drain the battery. It'll just kill the power through the relay, and I don't have to worry about it. Key off, walk away, all the accessories are off. Alright, I went ahead and I just pulled off of the tail light wire back here because it was easy to get to, and then I zip tied that along here because I don't want that to wiggle, and that goes to my relay. And then on the other side of the coil of the relay, I have a ground eyelet that I crimped and soldered on because I don't want it to be a hot spot, because the solder decreases the resistance. And again, if you don't understand this, just subscribe. I'm going to do electricity videos in the near future. And then I ground off the paint on this frame tab with my little Dremel tool. And then maybe, if I can do this one-handed, I'm going to reinsert this bolt. And well, maybe I'm not, because that's not the right size eyelet, because this is a shouldered bolt, so I got to make that eyelet just a little bit bigger. Anyway, that's going to be my ground. So then when I turn the switch to the bike on, the tail light will come on, send power through that wire to the relay, and it will activate it and close a contact, which allows power to go in here and out there. So I'm going to go ahead and drill that out very carefully, or probably use my Dremel grinder that I used on there to grind a little bit bigger, and then put that bolt in for the ground. Alright, and then nestled down in that corner, hopefully where a seat hook won't get it, I've got my relay zip tied to the frame. Now, I'm just going to be careful when I put the seat on so that hook doesn't catch that zip tie, but it should be alright. Next, I got to go get fuse holders, but, well, the GPS has one on it already, so I'm going to reuse that. I just got to get another one for my big cord here. Alright, I had originally just put the ground under this bolt, but I didn't have the right size eyelets, and I really didn't want to try and drill them or grind them out, so I ended up taking this little piece of metal, and that's going to this frame tab, which is grounded, and then I just have all three of my ground wires going to that. One of the grounds is for the relay, the other one is for my plug, and then the third one's for the GPS. I've just got an inline fuse holder going from the battery to the relay, and then the other side feeds a GPS and it feeds a cable, which the cable comes up to here to this plug, and then I've put this USB charger adapter on the end of it. This is, $2 shipped from China on eBay, so I don't know if it'll last, but there it is. And then that will just drop into my tank bag, and then I can plug in my cell phone or my GoPro or the camera I'm using now to film, and then charge it going down the road. That way I don't get stranded and need a cell phone but it's dead, and then I can just go for days and not have to actually stop anywhere like a hotel room to recharge GoPro and everything. So it's all wired up. And then if I turn the key on, you can see I've got power. And then if I turn the key off, power goes off. That way my accessories don't drain the battery. So I'll just put all the body panels and everything back on, and I am actually going to put my man rack back on here instead of making one out of stainless, because it will fit. So it'll save me a lot of time and effort, and I'm probably just going to slap the roto packs back on it, but I might change them out for that. But that'll be a different video. So that's my little wiring project. And then oh, I guess I could show you the voltmeter, and it is a little low because the bike isn't running, but then if we go ahead and start the bike, got basically 14 volts. And then this, you can see when it gets dark. I suppose I could just shut the bike off so you can hear me. This has a little light sensor in it, so normally it's bright, and then when it gets dark, it dims like that. So in the daytime you can actually see it, and then when it's dark and you don't want bright LEDs in your face, it dims, which is a neat little feature. So there's all that, and then I have a Garmin Cradle on a Touratech locking mount, and that just goes to a clamp on the handlebars. Then I've got an extra ball here for a camera or to move this over a little farther. Yeah, and then I still don't have the right size eyelet wire clamp on here, but I'll get that eventually. So there is the wiring for the Honda.